I had a whole bunch of weird, paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on, because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand. Nobody was really bothering to explain it to me. They don't. And then you find out later on that you are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time. You think there's a reason you're watching this right now. You were meant to see this because what I'm about to reveal is so disturbing, so deeply buried, and so reality-altering that most people will never know it even exists. Mel Gibson knew something that he wasn't supposed to know, something about Hollywood, something about power, identity, and the hidden forces that shape reality itself. And when he tried to speak out, they erased him. One of the biggest names in Hollywood vanished overnight. Why? Because he broke the rules. But now, the truth is coming out. And once you understand what Gibson discovered, you'll never see your own reality the same way again. Before The Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson was untouchable. He was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, an A-lister with unlimited power. But after that movie, it was like he didn't exist. Suddenly, Hollywood turned against him. His career collapsed overnight. He was branded insane, controversial, and a danger to the industry. Scandal after scandal, as if it was designed to happen. But why? Because The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a film. It was a supernatural event. Something happened during the making of that movie that Hollywood wasn't ready for. Mel Gibson knew it was coming. That's why, before filming even started, he pulled Jim Caviezel aside and gave him a chilling warning. If you take this role, you'll never work in this town again. And he was right, because what happened next defied logic, shattered reality, and exposed the most forbidden secret of all. Think about it. Hollywood actors take on controversial roles all the time. They play criminals, murderers, even Satan himself, yet their careers don't end. But Mel Gibson looked Jim Caviezel in the eye and said, "If you take this role, you'll never work in this town again. Not, you might struggle. Not, it'll be tough. But you will be erased." Why? Because this wasn't just a movie. It was a test, a spiritual event disguised as a Hollywood production. And what happened next proved it. The moment Jim Caviezel stepped into the role of Christ, reality itself started breaking apart. The warnings weren't symbolic, they were real. While filming, Caviezel was struck by lightning. Not once, twice. The chances of that happening are astronomical. His shoulder dislocated, carrying the cross. He suffered hypothermia during the crucifixion scene. His heart literally stopped beating, and that's not even the worst part. The actor playing Judas almost died in a freak accident. Crew members began collapsing on set. People started hearing voices, feeling a presence, something beyond human. It wasn't just bad luck. It wasn't just a coincidence. It was something else. And Mel Gibson, he knew it was going to happen. Because when you step into a role so deeply embedded into human consciousness, you aren't just acting. You become something else. And that's when reality starts shifting around you. Because what they don't want you to know is that identity is reality. And here's where it gets even deeper. Because this isn't just about Mel Gibson or Jim Caviezel. This is about you. Most people think reality is just cause and effect. You wake up, go to work, get paid, live your life. But what if I told you that's a lie? What if I told you that your entire world is just a reflection of the identity you hold in your subconscious? Think about it. Before The Passion of the Christ, Jim Caviezel was a rising Hollywood star. His career was on fire. But the moment he took on the role of Christ, everything collapsed. Not because he suddenly became a bad actor. Not because Hollywood forgot about him, but because his identity shifted. He wasn't just Jim Caviezel anymore. He became Christ in the collective subconscious of millions. And once that happens, reality has to rearrange itself. Hollywood couldn't see him as a leading man anymore. They saw him as something else. His entire career trajectory was erased. This is why Mel Gibson warned him. Because once your identity shifts, there's no going back. And this is exactly what happens in your life, too. Every time you step into a new version of yourself, the world around you will start reacting, sometimes violently. Ever notice that when you start making money, some old friends suddenly distance themselves? Or when you stop playing the nice guy role, people start treating you differently. That's because your identity is your reality. And the moment you shift, your world has to change. But here's where it gets even crazier, because this isn't just about you. This is by design. There are people, powerful people, who understand this far better than you do. And they've been using this secret to manipulate human consciousness for centuries. Because if identity is reality, who is controlling the identities we're allowed to step into? Mel Gibson wasn't just making a movie. He was activating something ancient, and Hollywood knew it. That's why he wasn't just criticized, he was exiled. But here's where it gets real. This isn't just some psychological trick. It's not just about thinking differently or believing in yourself. No, this is ancient knowledge that was buried, hidden, and deliberately erased from history. Every powerful civilization, from the Egyptians to the mystery schools of Greece, from the esoteric teachings of the East to the early mystics of Christianity, knew one thing: reality bends to match the identity you embody. Not your thoughts, not your desires, not your hard work, your identity. Ancient texts called this the divine self, the higher I am, the God within. But here's the part that changes everything. They, of every era, have always known this. And they've made sure you never do. Because when you understand this, you stop being controlled. You stop playing by their rules. You stop waiting for permission, for validation, for someone else to tell you who you are. You decide. The reason Mel Gibson was exiled wasn't just because he made a controversial movie. It's because he was tapping into an identity shift so powerful it shakes the foundations of reality itself. And the system hates that. This is why the moment you start stepping into a new identity, reality tests you. Because the old system is designed to keep you locked in the version of yourself that is predictable, manageable, and most importantly, powerless. But here's where it gets insane. Because what happened to Gibson is not just about Hollywood. It's about you. It's about every person who's ever tried to break free. See, every human being operates under an identity blueprint. It's like an invisible script running in the background of your life, dictating what you believe, what you attract, and what reality allows you to experience. And here's the most important part: that script was not written by you. From the moment you were born, your identity has been programmed into you by your parents, your school, the media, the culture around you. You were given a role to play. And here's the shocker: if you don't consciously rewrite that script, you will live out the one you were given. You'll stay in the role they designed for you. And that role was never meant to make you powerful. This is why most people stay stuck. They try to change their lives, but they're operating from the same identity. The person who is broke, struggling, overlooked. That's just an identity. And as long as they believe that's who they are, their reality will reflect it. Because here's the real secret: they don't want you to know. Your reality doesn't care what you want. It only responds to who you are. This is why Mel Gibson faced instant backlash. The moment he stepped into a new identity, he wasn't playing by the rules anymore. He wasn't just an actor. He had taken on a symbol that reshaped human consciousness for thousands of years. And when you do that, when you step into a higher, more powerful identity, reality bends to match. But before it stabilizes, it will test you. This is the part where most people fail. They start stepping into their power, and suddenly, Things start falling apart. Relationships shift, money dries up, unexpected chaos comes in, and they panic. They think, I must be doing something wrong. But here's the truth. That's how the process works. Because reality doesn't just update smoothly. Your old identity has to collapse first. The world you built from that identity has to fall apart to make space for the new one. And if you don't understand this, you'll retreat back to your old self. You'll try to fix what's breaking instead of realizing that it's breaking for a reason. This is why some people stay in an endless loop of near success. They try to shift, they experience resistance, and they go back to the old identity over and over again. But once you realize what's happening, you can push through it. You can step into your power without getting trapped in the chaos. And in the next part, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Because when you master identity shifting, you don't just change your life, you change your entire reality. Most people think reality is fixed, that things happen to them randomly, that success or failure is just a matter of luck, effort, or intelligence. But that's a lie. Reality is not random. It's a mirror. It reflects back to you exactly what you believe yourself to be. Not what you want, not what you hope for, not what you visualize, but who you are. This is why two people can have the same opportunities, the same skills, the same resources, yet one thrives while the other stays stuck. Because it's not about what they do. It's about who they are being. And if you don't shift who you are at the core, nothing changes. This is what Mel Gibson understood at a level most people never will. When he stepped into a new identity, the world responded instantly. His reality was no longer his own. It was shaped by something much bigger. Something powerful enough to influence human consciousness. And this isn't just about Hollywood. This is about you. Because right now, whether you realize it or not, you are locked into an identity script. Maybe you see yourself as someone who has to work harder than everyone else just to get by, or as someone who always comes close to success but never quite makes it. Maybe you've told yourself a story for so long that you don't even question it anymore. I'm just not that lucky. People like me don't win. I have to struggle before I succeed. And so, reality keeps proving you right, not because it's true, but because that's the role you're playing. But here's the secret that changes everything. You can rewrite the script. That invisible script. The one you were handed at birth doesn't have to be your story. The idea that your identity dictates your reality can feel overwhelming, especially when the world seems to push back the moment you try to change. But what if that resistance isn't a sign to stop? What if it's the exact sign that you're on the right track? Let's explore how you can navigate this process, not with force, but with awareness and intention. You felt it before, haven't you? That moment you decide to become healthier, more confident, or more abundant, and suddenly everything that can go wrong does. Your car breaks down. An old friend picks a fight. An unexpected bill arrives. It feels like the universe is telling you to give up. But that chaos is just your old reality breaking down. It's the sound of the old foundation cracking to make way for something new. Most people run when they hear that sound. They retreat to the safety of who they used to be. But you don't have to. Think of your life as a garden. To plant something new and beautiful, you first have to pull the weeds and turn over the soil. It's messy work. It looks like destruction before it looks like creation. This is what's happening in your life during an identity shift. The chaos is just the ground being prepared. So, how do you stand firm when the world you know starts to tremble? How do you hold on to this new version of yourself when your reflection in the mirror of reality still looks like the old you? It begins with small, conscious practices that anchor you in who you are becoming, not who you have been. Let's start with the first one. Micro Habit 1. The Identity Anchor Purpose. To create an unshakable inner sense of your new self, so you can remain centered even when your outer world is in flux. How-to each morning? Before you check your phone, find a quiet space. Close your eyes and ask one question. How would the version of me who is already confident, wealthy, peaceful feel right now? Don't think about what they would do. Just feel the emotion. Is it calm? Is it gratitude? Is it quiet strength? Breathe into that feeling for just 60 seconds. That's it. Signs you're doing it right. You start your day feeling more grounded and less reactive. When challenges arise, you find a small part of you remains calm, observing the chaos instead of being swept away by it. You feel a quiet confidence that isn't dependent on external validation. Common pitfalls: trying too hard to force the feeling. If you can't feel it, don't stress. Just sit with the intention of feeling it. Another pitfall is expecting instant results. This is a subtle practice that builds strength over time, like toning a muscle. Stay back. This directly counters the panic most people feel when their old reality starts falling apart. Instead of getting lost in the storm, you become the anchor that holds steady. Imagine you're learning to sail. When the wind picks up and the waves get choppy, a novice sailor panics and fights the storm, but an experienced sailor adjusts the sails, trusts the boat, and uses the wind's power. The identity anchor teaches you to be that experienced sailor in your own life. What is one feeling that the person you are becoming would experience every day? This practice isn't about pretending. It's about remembering a future that already exists within you. You're not creating a new identity from scratch. You're clearing away the dust and noise to reveal the one that's been there all along. But our minds are tricky. They love proof. The old identity has a lifetime of evidence to support its story: past failures, critical comments from others, financial statements. To build a new reality, you need to start collecting new evidence, no matter how small. Micro-habit twin, the evidence log purpose: to train your brain to see proof of your new identity, strengthening your belief and making the shift feel more real and inevitable. How? At the end of each day, write down just one tiny piece of evidence that supports your new identity. Did you want to become more confident and you spoke up in a meeting? Write it down. Did you want to be wealthier and you found $1 on the street? Write it down. Did you want to be healthier and you chose water over soda? Write it down. Signs you're doing it right. You start noticing more and more positive things happening. The world starts to feel less like it's against you and more like it's conspiring to help you. Your new identity starts to feel less like an act and more like who you are. Common pitfalls: dismissing small wins. Your brain will say, "That doesn't count, it's too small." Your job is to ignore that voice and write it down anyway. The size of the evidence doesn't matter, the act of collecting it does. Tie back. This practice actively rewrites the invisible script you were given. You are consciously creating a new story, backed by real-world proof, to replace the old, powerless one. Think of Sarah, who wanted to see herself as a successful artist instead of a struggling hobbyist. Her old script told her she wasn't good enough. She started an evidence log. Day 1. Her only evidence was that she cleaned her brushes instead of leaving them dirty. Day 2, she sketched for 10 minutes. Day 3, a friend complimented an old painting. Within a month, her log was filled with small commissions, new ideas, and connections with other artists. The evidence didn't magically appear. Her focus on finding it allowed her to see the opportunities that were already there. Your old identity is a deeply worn path in your mind. Every time you think a familiar negative thought or react in a habitual way, you deepen that groove. To create a new path, you need to consciously interrupt the old pattern the moment it appears. Micro-habit 3. The pattern interrupt purpose. To stop the momentum of old, automatic thought patterns and behaviors, creating a space to choose a response that aligns with your new identity. How to. The moment you catch yourself thinking a thought or starting a behavior from your old identity, e.g., I can't afford that, or slouching when you feel insecure, do a simple, physical action to interrupt it. Gently tap your wrist twice. Stand up and stretch. Take one deep breath. The action itself doesn't matter, as long as it's a conscious break in the pattern. Signs you're doing it right. You start catching the old patterns earlier and earlier. The automatic negative thoughts lose their power over you. You feel a sense of choice and agency in moments where you used to feel helpless. Common pitfalls. Judging yourself when you miss a pattern. You won't catch them all at first, and that's okay. The goal is progress, not perfection. Simply notice, interrupt when you can, and move on without self-criticism. Tie back. This is the key to breaking the endless loop of near success. That loop is created by unconsciously reverting to old patterns when you face resistance. This habit makes that reversion a conscious choice, not an automatic reflex. We are surrounded by triggers that reinforce our old identity. It could be the friend who only talks about your past struggles, the social media accounts that make you feel inadequate, or even the clutter in your room from a time in your life you want to move past. To fully step into a new reality, you must lovingly release the anchors holding you to the old one. Micro-habit 4E, the energetic declutter purpose. To create an external environment that matches your internal shift, making it easier to maintain your new identity's frequency. How to once a week. Identify one thing in your life that represents the old you and let it go. This could be a physical object, clothes that don't fit the person you're becoming, a digital connection, unfollowing an account that triggers envy, or even a conversational habit, deciding not to engage in gossip. Signs you're doing it right. You feel a sense of lightness and clarity. Your physical and digital spaces start to feel more inspiring and aligned with your goals. You have more energy because you're not spending it navigating things that drain you. Common pitfalls, feeling guilty, especially when letting go of relationships or gifts. Reframe it not as rejection, but as creating space. You're not pushing them away. You're pulling your new self forward. Tie back. This addresses the challenge of friends and family trying to pull you back into your old role. By consciously curating your environment, you reduce the power of those external influences. What is one small thing in your immediate surroundings right now that represents a past you've outgrown? What would it feel like to let it go? Your identity isn't just a feeling or a set of behaviors, it's a story. The person who is broke tells a story of scarcity. The person who is unlucky tells a story of victimhood. These stories run on repeat in our minds, and they are incredibly powerful. But a story can be rewritten. Micro-habit 5E. The script rewriter purpose. To consciously change the core narratives that define your identity, shifting from limiting statements to empowering questions. How identify a common limiting belief you hold? The odd G. I have to work hard to make money. Instead of trying to force yourself to believe the opposite, money comes to me easily, which can feel like a lie. Turn it into an open-ended question. Ask yourself, what if it could be easier? Or, what would it look like if I enjoyed the process? Signs you're doing it right. You feel a sense of curiosity and possibility instead of dread and limitation. Your brain, which loves to solve problems, will start looking for answers to your new, empowering questions. You'll begin to notice opportunities and solutions you were blind to before. Common pitfalls, getting stuck in analysis. Don't try to answer the question logically. The power is in the asking. Just holding the question opens up new neural pathways and perspectives. Tie back. This is the most direct way to tackle the identity blueprint you were given. You are taking the pen back and starting a new chapter, not by erasing the past, but by framing the future with better questions. These practices are not about fighting your old self. That only creates more conflict. This is a process of integration, of gently and consistently choosing the new you over and over until it becomes your default state. You are not at war with your past. You are simply choosing to build a different future. As you practice these habits, you'll notice the world around you begin to stabilize in a new way. The chaos will subside. The right people will appear. The right opportunities will land in your lap, not by magic, but because you have become an energetic match for them. You are becoming the person who expects them, who is ready for them, who deserves them. You're not just changing your mind, you are recalibrating your entire reality. You are learning to hold the frame, not through force, but through a quiet, unshakable knowing. A knowing that the collapse was never the end of your story. It was the beginning. Payoff, the most profound secret, isn't that reality bends to your will, but that it mirrors your being. The world doesn't give you what you want, it gives you who you are. Every struggle, every limitation, is a reflection of an identity script you never consciously wrote. The true path to freedom isn't about changing the world outside, but about courageously rewriting the world within. The second principle is that chaos is not a sign of failure, it is the sound of transformation. When your old world shakes, it's because the foundation for your new reality is being laid. Learning to stand steady in that beautiful, terrifying moment of collapse is the single greatest skill you can master. For the next 7 days, I invite you to a simple practice. Each morning, before your feet hit the floor, place a hand on your heart and ask, "Who am I choosing to be today?" Don't list tasks. Choose a state of being. Today, I am choosing to be peaceful. Today, I am choosing to be courageous. Then, throughout your day, simply notice the small moments where your actions align with that choice. This tiny, repeatable act is the first step in taking back the pen and consciously authoring the life that is waiting for you.